started work, or you will start work, after the year 2000. So now, hands up, millennials. Okay, so let's first look at the reason why this topic is one that is very close to all of our hearts. Now, let's look at the environment first. Has anyone heard of VUCA? V-U-C-A. Grace, VUCA. Yeah, complex and ambiguous. Okay, so VUCA is a term that some of you, if you haven't already, you may start to hear about. It's actually, I think it's a military term originally, and it stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, right? Which is essentially our environment. Okay? And the reason for that, without going too off topic, is because the nature of work has changed. Okay? So since the industrial age, where the nature of work was very transactional and rote and kind of production line work, the work we do now, and the work that millennials are coming into, is much more of a knowledge-based role. Okay, so it's changing all the time. And so millennials are coming up into the workforce. Now, this is a kind of a unrepresentative of the workforce at the moment in this room, because there's so much growth and very rapid growth, especially in the Philippines, in large organizations, that most of the workforce, certainly in the next 5-10 years, will actually be millennials. So it might be a moot point, because people in this room in 5-10 years will actually be millennials. But at the moment, we're kind of, how do we tame the lions? Okay? Who are they? How do we understand them? Now, when Sarah and Brian asked me to talk about millennials, I thought, how do we talk about personality or culture? Because although I work with millennials all the time, I never refer to them, I never address them as millennials. They're just people, right? They're people, they're employees, they're team members. So I had to step back and kind of think, how am I going to approach this? So I basically did a little experiment with some of my millennials, and I'm going to share it with you today. Okay, I don't know if you can read that, so that I don't have to turn my back to you. Alright, the me generation. Millennials, you guys, you, are apparently lazy, entitled narcissists who still live with their parents. But they're going to save us all. So we really need to know how to engage them and retain them. But Josh, how do you feel about that description? It's rude. Anyone agree it's rude, even if you're not a millennial? It's very rude. What's another word that you might use? Incorrect. It assumes that what? That everyone is like that. Right? So it doesn't help because really not everyone is like that. So we're going to call that a stereotype. Right? It's basically a stereotype. We'll talk more about what a stereotype is. I was doing some research, as you do when you're about to give a talk on millennials, and I found the results of a survey from about 2 years ago, I think 2013, because I wanted to see how millennials, what do they think about themselves? What do they understand about themselves? Because there's probably a perception gap, right? No millennial is actually going to agree with that, but the perception is there. So there's a gap in perception. So a couple of the questions, the results of the questions stood out to me. So this is, by the way, is a survey by beyond.com. You want to look it up for the rest of the results. So, loyalty to employers. Right? So it was 6,000 people, some were millennials and others were the actual employers. Okay, so how many of you, what percentage believe that you are loyal to your employers? I'm not going to ask you to guess, but the millennials, 82% of them said that they are loyal to their employers. Does that surprise you as employers? And you are consistent with the employers in the survey because they 1%, right? 1% of the employers said that millennials are loyal to their employers, right? So massive perception gap, right? The second one, are you hardworking? Right. So millennials, 86% of millennials said yes, we're hardworking. I am hardworking. Right? How many employers? What percentage of employers do you think said that the millennials are hardworking? 20? 11. So again, a massive gap in perception. And perception is reality. Right? So what we're going to look at for the next few minutes is trying to change that reality just a little bit. The third one, which I thought was staggering, is technology. How many of you believe that you are technology savvy? How many do you think? What percentage of millennials said that they are technology savvy? Right? All of them. 36%. Versus 86% of the employers. And the reason for that is because technology to a millennial is kind of robotics or reversing climate change. They are, as digital natives, technology is part of their everyday. As a case in point, our school, my children go to the same school as Trixie's, they have just announced, and too much to the hurt of our wallets this year, that every child has to take in an iPad. Every child has to take an iPad. Above a certain age, every child has to take in a computer. And so while there has been some uproar amongst the parent community, actually it makes perfect sense because it is part of their lives. Right? So there's definitely a perception gap. So on to my little experiment. What I do is I help people to understand using a common language. Okay? So we're going to try to establish a common language with which to maybe describe millennials and then perhaps have a conversation with them, okay, in a bid to understand and engage them better. Oh, I've got my clip. Sorry. So before we do that, let's look at some definitions. All right. So we established that the cover of that Time magazine was a stereotype. So what is a stereotype? It's a judgmental belief, right? So there's judgment involved. In that case, it was negative. Right? It's considered accurate because the assumption there was that all millennials are lazy. Right? And it basically wasn't open to contradiction. Okay? It's not the start of a conversation. Whereas a generalization is useful. Okay? A generalization is a non-judgmental characterization. Right? It can be applied generally. Okay? So generally, people from the UK are stoic. But they're not all stoic. Some are very expressive. It's a hypothesis, basically a baseline. It's a hypothesis that should be refined with individual application. And by individual application, when we're talking about people, we mean, is that person actually like that? Right? So we're going to generalize. It actually reminds me of the first time that I was trying to pitch a cultural competence program to a UK company. So I had the UK-based CEO, the UK-based global training manager, and then another lady all the way down the end of the conference table on her laptop. And so we had this great meeting, and they were all, yes, it's going to go great, this is what's going to happen. And then the person said, what do you think? And she said, well, I don't want a Brit telling me what my culture is about. Right? Which, of course, she doesn't want that. And the last thing I would do is stereotype. So it's very important that when we are having culture conversations, when we're having generational conversations, that we differentiate between stereotyping, they're all like that, right? And generalizing. Right? This is the benchmark. If you put 1 million of them, if you look at the normal bell curve, most of them would fall in that middle 2/3, right, in terms of that behavior. So really important to say, okay, generalizing, but it's open to individual verification. So what I'm going to do is show you all some orientations. I use this mainly with different cultures, but if you look at a culture as characteristics, behaviors of a specific group, then you can apply culture to millennials. Right? They're a group with certain behaviors and values that we're trying to understand. So let's look at a couple of orientations, and I'll share with you what my control group, which consisted of millennials, what they said about their orientation. Let's start, and you'll get the hang of it as we go along. So the first one, this orientation speaks to how we prefer to handle conflict, disagreements, and discord. So the two ends of the continua, basically. Okay? So one is direct, straightforward, and open conflict handling. Okay? The other is indirect, discreet handling of conflict. Face saving is essential, can be elusive, and it avoids concreteness. Okay. So with my group, I said, okay, you as millennials, now put your millennial hat on. Which one do you think is expected and rewarded in your cultural group? And what they said was direct. Okay? They recognized that it was different, that they might be different from other generations, but they said, yeah, we're direct. If we had to compare ourselves to the older generation, right, to distinguish ourselves in that group, yeah, we're direct and they're indirect. Future and past. So past would be where reference to historical development and tradition is valued. Okay? And in terms of, when you're deciding what to do, you would tend to look at what's been done before. Okay? And either agree or not, but always refer to the past. Whereas a future orientation makes reference to vision and future and innovative objectives. So the default setting of the mind of a millennial, what they said is that it's future. Okay? So they are looking to the future, their future, right? They're really concerned with their future. They're also really concerned with the future of their planet. Right? They're concerned with the future of their organization. Going back to your contribution and why you're doing what you're doing at work. Well, you're doing it to further to get to a better image of the vision, of your vision. Okay? So Millennials said, yeah, we're definitely future. Yes, our parents' generation would have been more in the past. Next. How we experience or relate to social stratification. So, on one hand, we have hierarchy, so where there is an expectation of differentiated power structure. Organizational hierarchy, actually, those two are the other way around. Sorry. The bottom two are reversed. So for hierarchy, the hierarchy extends beyond the workplace. Okay, maybe say that. So equality, there's an expectation of an egalitarian power structure. In other words, people are expected to have to be equal. And the hierarchy, of course, all organizations do have hierarchy, but it's more for convenience only. Okay. So my control group of millennials said equality is what we value as millennials. Okay. So in other words, we feel now that, contrary to past generations, we want to have more say. We like working for organizations that have open door policies where you can approach your boss's boss without fear of retribution from your boss. Okay, so it's much more of an equality-based culture. And then collectivistic and individualistic. Right? Collectivistic, the focus would be on social affiliation. Value is placed on dependence. It's much more of a we conversation rather than an I conversation. Versus individualistic, where the focus is more on the self. Value is placed on independence. And that culture or that group feels more comfortable than in the past saying I. Right? And that actually refers back to the time cover, right? Me, me, me. So now, the group, and I think we can probably all agree that now the millennials are a very individualistic group, right? So it really is about the individual and no longer about the collective. Now this particular one is what I found to be a particular challenge in the Philippines. Okay? Now when I have older managers, senior leaders, and they come and say, yeah, I don't know what to do with my young people because they have no respect. Right? They don't respect me, they don't listen, they just do their own thing. That's because there's a massive gap on this continuum between older generations of Filipinos and younger ones, where the young millennials in the Philippines, this is the generation that is not the most homogeneous with other young generations. But now because of globalization, of mobility, technology of course, that is a constant, and social media of course, everyone is equal. And so they want that equality and that individualism to carry forward into their daily lives and into, of course, their workplaces. So, in summary, this generalization, so we've got individualism, we've got direct handling of conflict, we've got equality. So that is a picture that we can build up of the general millennial group. And so as I was asking, verifying with my control group, I said, so do you feel happy with that general description? And they were like, kind of. I mean, it is a general description. And if you were to compare a description of Gen X and Millennial, then yeah, we feel more comfortable with the Millennial description that you've come up with. But there was still something not quite right. And then, me coming here, I was casting myself forward to standing in front of you guys and saying, okay, so there you go. Oh, that's it. And I thought, that's not enough. And they were telling me, no, it's not enough. So I did another experiment with them. And I said, okay, let's look at some core values. Let's look at your core values as a group. So there are 15 of them. So I gave them this list. As a list, it wasn't as hard to read as this one is. And I said, look at the list for 15 minutes. Some of you might have done this exercise. So you basically choose 10, right? And of your core values, what's important to you, basically, right? So after you've got the 10, then you spend another 10 minutes bringing that down to 5, right? Then you spend another 10 minutes whittling it down to 3, right? And those 3 core values are the ones that if you had to live your life or behave in a way that was against those core values, it would be very, very difficult. Okay? If you haven't done it, by the way, you should do it. Very, very insightful. So they all did that, and I thought, maybe finally I can come up with what's the common core value that I can tell Sarah's group that this is how you engage millennials. Let's see the result. There was no common thread, other than they were all different. Okay? Speaking to the individualism, okay? They felt that they could share their core values, whereas perhaps in previous generations where there was more of a group thing, the collectivism, they might have felt, okay, so what is our core value? So what have we got? We've got freedom, learning, adventure, honesty, others, growth, time, wealth, challenge, competition. Right? Varied. Right? And so, unfortunately for you guys, my message is that millennials, just like every generation that have gone before, like ours, we're all completely individual. Right? We have our own core values. Yes, there are some generalizations. Going back to and stereotypes, but let's go back to lazy. Right? Lazy. One of my control group, he said, if not during this exercise, but during the 2 days, he said, I'm really lazy. And I said, okay, do you consider yourself a lazy person? No, I'm not lazy, but sometimes I get lazy. When do you get lazy? When I'm not challenged, right? And he was the one that said, my core value is being challenged, right? So when you see in your organization a behavior, you need to delve, not assume, not stereotype, but look further down and say, okay, what's the underlying core value that is not being met, right? And in that case, it was challenged, right? So some key takeaways. Whoops. Go back. Choices. Right? Now, millennials, we're all in an environment where we have choices. Right? Now, millennials can choose to stay with you, or they can choose to go over the road. Right? What you need to do is have them choose to stay. It's not just millennials, we all have choices. How many choices of tuna were there 10 years ago? I was in the supermarket this morning and the entire wall was different types of tuna, which we now have come to expect. Okay? We have come to expect it. The children and the millennials have grown up like that. They've never known any different. So imagine that they just expect choices. So as employers, we need to give them choices. We need to give them the why. Why am I doing this? Which wasn't the case in 10 years ago. The nature of the role was just you just do it, you get your paycheck, you have your performance review if you met your targets, blah, blah, blah. Now, everyone, and it's not just the millennials, and we all want to know how we fit in. Okay? We need to know the why, and not just the what and the how. Learn from failure. We had that. Grace, you mentioned that. Now, again, going back to our school, one of their tenets at the moment is learning from failure. Right? We know from neuroscience, the MRIs, how does the brain function in failure? It doesn't explode. It actually fires more effectively. In other words, the learning happens from failure. So, but obviously we don't want all our employees to fail. But what's important is to give them a safe environment in which to fail, but it doesn't actually make a big difference in the grand scheme of things. Okay, so you need to fail, but with support. So give them risky projects, give them little challenges where they might fail. They will learn from it. Okay. Variety, job rotation. It's all multitasking, quick, instant gratification, right? Instant reward. If I want to know something, just Google it. Kids have been saying that since they were 3 years old. Just Google it. You've got to give them variety. So if it means quick job rotations, virtual teams, give them something to keep their minds active. Get to know them, right? The core values, they're all different. But you won't know that if you don't get to know them. Okay, so tell your managers, train your managers to get to know the individuals in their teams. The last one, coach, coach, coach. Basically, if you do all of the above, that is you and your manager's coaching, right? A good manager coach will help the team member learn, give them choices, give them variety, help them see the bigger picture, get to know them, get to know their core values. So there's no easy way, but the good news is that this approach applies not only to millennials, but everyone in the organization. That's it.